Hi, my name is Andrea. I'm a customer support manager for Blackthorn. Today we're reviewing our November 2020 payments release. To get started, here's a quick overview of the topics that we'll cover today. So first we'll go through upgrade instructions and considerations. Next I'll show you our exciting new features, which include Plaid and Spreedly support for PayLink. Then I'll cover enhancements and new fields that we've included in this latest version. Then we'll touch briefly on changes we've included in this release in response to Salesforce's Winter 21 update. And finally, we'll review bug fixes included in this version before we wrap up. So let's first talk through upgrade instructions. As always, we recommend that you first review our release notes to understand the benefits and any potential impacts of the upgrade. Also, highly recommend that you first upgrade in a recently refreshed sandbox environment to perform some of your own regression testing, just to make sure any customization or custom configuration that you've built around our payments package still works as expected post-upgrade. Our release notes will have the links to the packages. In this case, we have a new payments package and a new PayLink package. So I'm on our November 2020 release notes now. We have a section for upgrade instructions with links to both of those new packages that you'll need to upgrade. The two new features I'm showing you today have some specific testing instructions. So if you intend to do any testing with either Plaid or Spreedly for PayLink before November 30th, you'll want to make sure to pay special attention to this section here. And this will give you all the details on how to test this prior to the official go-live date of 11/30/2020. The first new feature we're going to look at is Plaid for PayLink. So what is Plaid? For those of you who may not be familiar, Plaid is a service that makes it faster and easier to set up secure bank payment options for your customers. Customers can securely enter their online bank credentials, and Plaid instantly authenticates that bank account during a checkout process. Plaid works with Stripe as an ACH processor. So why is this so exciting for us in our app? Well, current Stripe customers who accept ACH as a payment option are all too familiar with the microdeposit process. And it's a requirement that's needed to obtain authorization from that customer before you can charge their bank account. This process usually takes a few days after the customer has already provided those bank account details. But using Plaid with our PayLink, your customer can input their online banking credentials into the checkout and instantly authorize use of that bank account. So there's no lengthy multi-step microdeposit verification process required. So how does it work? Before we get into the configuration details, I want to show you what the customer experience will look like. So I have a PayLink that I've pre-generated here. At this point, it's going to look exactly the same as what you're used to. The PayLink configuration record still governs the look and feel and branding of the PayLink. The changes you'll see come when you click the Pay button, and specifically the Bank tab where Plaid is integrated. Instead of seeing the normal form where your customer would input their bank details, you'll see a message that's prompting them to click the Pay button. And when they do that, this is where the Plaid integration takes over. This first prompt is just telling them that you use Plaid to process bank payments and they need to agree to the end user agreement. The next screen will give them an option to select a bank. You can either choose one from the list that's displayed, or you can search for one here. Once they choose the bank, this is the point where they'd enter their banking credentials. Just enter some saved test credentials I have. Once they click submit and they log in successfully, you'll see, or they will see the options that they have. If multiple accounts are present, they'll see all of those accounts, and they can choose which account they'd like to use to pay this particular transaction. And then you're directed back to PayLink to complete the checkout process. So once they have chosen the account and click continue, they are redirected back to the screen where transaction is being processed and the payment method is being saved. The payment method is instantly authorized and added to both Salesforce and Stripe as a reusable payment method. And this is an example of the success message that the customer would get once this payment has gone through. And then you can see all the details of the PayLink. So now that we've seen this in action, how do you get it set up? Well, there are some prerequisites to setting up the Plaid for PayLink functionality. So you have to have your own Plaid account, and that Plaid account needs to be connected to your Stripe account. So I have the Plaid dashboard here that I have set up. And to connect that to your Stripe account, you would go into the team settings of the dashboard, and then there's an integrations submenu. I, of course, have already connected this particular environment to Stripe. So you would not see the same options, but you instead would probably see a connect button, which would then direct you to the Stripe login so that you could put in your username and password and connect your Plaid account to Stripe. The next step would be just to make sure, again, say it again, make sure that you're on the latest version of payments and our PayLink packages. In Salesforce, your authorized PayLink user would also need to have the view encrypted data permission. So that's a system permission in Salesforce. And the authorized user being the user that would have completed the PayLink setup wizard. And you can either add that to a permission set or ensure that that profile has the view encrypted data permission. The other thing that you'll need to do in Salesforce is grab your API keys from from Plaid, and put them on your Stripe payment gateway record. So while we're still here on this dashboard page, if you go to team settings, there's also an API menu, and that's where your Stripe keys will be. Our documentation, our Plaid page in our documentation has specific mapping, so you know which API key from Stripe matches which API field that's on the payment gateway record. Let me jump over and show you what the payment gateway record in Salesforce would look like. So this is just the Stripe gateway that was already configured pre-Plaid. This is also the same Stripe account that is connected to the Plaid gateway, the Plaid account that we were just looking at. And so we've got some new fields here on the payment gateway record for the Plaid keys. And you will paste your Plaid keys into these fields per our documentation. If you want step-by-step instructions and to understand which keys go to which field, please review that Plaid page in our documentation. And once you've input these Plaid keys, there is a Connect to Gateway button here. So you're already connected to Stripe, but you want to go through this process again of just reconnecting once Plaid has been connected to Stripe, just to make sure that everything is connected properly. And that's really it at this point. So of course, if you want to test this between now and November 30th, there are those instructions that I mentioned earlier about using the test domains with PayLink. And these are all the steps needed to successfully set up Plaid with PayLink. The other new feature I wanted to introduce to you is Spreedly support for PayLink. In our October release, we introduced phase 1 of our Spreedly integration. And as a reminder, up until now, we had built deep integrations with Stripe and Authorize.net. And now our integration with Spreedly gives our customers options to choose from over 120 plus Spreedly supported gateways. In October, we revealed support for Spreedly gateways in the virtual terminal. This month, we've delivered support for PayLink using Spreedly gateways. Unlike Plaid, there are no real UI changes in PayLink between Spreedly gateways or Stripe and Authorize.net. It's a very similar checkout experience. I will do a quick review on how to set up a Spreedly gateway for anyone who didn't watch our October webinar. So the first step will be to contact Blackthorn support. So we can provide a Spreedly environment key so that you don't have to use your own Spreedly account, set up your own Spreedly account. You do have to have an account, a merchant account with that underlying payment gateway that you're going to be using via Spreedly. Let me jump back over to Salesforce and kind of walk you through that process quickly. All right, I already have a Spreedly gateway set up, so I'll just show you what a completed record would look like. So once you get that Spreedly environment key, you would create a new payment gateway record in Salesforce. You would choose Spreedly as the provider. And then down in this gateway information section, we've added, in this particular org, the Spreedly environment key. This is where you would paste that environment key that Blackthorn support or customer success would provide for you. And then once you've, got to move myself here, once you have saved that key on the payment gateway record, there's a Create Spreedly Gateway button. So once you click this button, you're going to be directed to another page, which allows you to choose that underlying gateway that you have a merchant account with, which you plan to use. Maybe. Okay, and this page is loaded now, and you've got a drop down with a gateway selection, so you can see all the available payment gateways here. And then depending on which gateway that you select, there may be some additional information needed, API keys, credentials. It really just depends on the specific gateway that you are looking to connect with. Then, of course, once you have selected the gateway and you provide whatever details that you are requested of you, click Create. You'll get either a success or failure message. But if you get a success message, you can return to the record, and that's it. You're ready to go ahead and use your Spreedly gateways with the virtual terminal and also with PayLink. One note I do want to mention specifically about Spreedly is that the transactions and payment methods do not get associated with a payment gateway customer record. They just don't get created like they do in Stripe or Authorize.net. Therefore, our out-of-box, our out-of-box matching logic to accounts and contacts or leads doesn't work, since that matching logic applies at the payment gateway customer level. So please be sure to populate an account or contact via the terminal or the transaction record that's tied to the PayLink, just to ensure that it's connected to the relevant records. All right, next we're going to review enhancements and new fields. So we've released some enhancements this month around the virtual terminal, which include heightened security around tokenization of payment methods with Authorize.net and Spreedly. We've also added the ability to pre-populate holder name, email, and postal code when using the new payment method action in the virtual terminal. So let's take a look at what those changes look like. So back in Salesforce, go to, I've got the virtual terminal on a contact record. All right, and so if we switch this action to new payment method, and we're going to change this gateway once this page loads to our Authorize.net gateway. And anyone who is familiar with the virtual terminal or who has used the virtual terminal with Authorize.net in the past, you'll likely see a difference in the look and feel of this form versus the way that it looks in our prior versions. And so really much of the change is on the back end as part of the refactor effort around tokenization improvements. But you will notice that there is a change, and this is why. So Authorize.net and Spreedly now have this particular form instead of the prior form that you were accustomed to seeing. And you'll also notice on this new payment method action, we've pre-populated the name on card and the billing email. And so in prior versions, we've already had the capability of pre-populating fields on the new single transaction action. And now we've extended that capability to the new payment method action as well. And it's through the same mechanism. So if you go to Setup, and we're going to go to the custom metadata types. Okay, here in custom metadata types, you'll see that we've got a virtual terminal mapping. Click Manage Records. This is where you can determine any mapping that you would like to do between the record that the virtual terminal is configured on, and then the transaction fields that will result from using the terminal, or now the payment method that will get created from the terminal. So in this case, I have this particular record which will map the contact full name from the record that we have that virtual terminal on to the payment method holder's name. So that's the mechanism by which we map, or we're able to pre-populate data on the virtual terminal so that your internal user doesn't have to manually key it in when it's right there on the same page. So that's another new feature that we've included in this most recent release. Kind of on the same topic, if we go back to the contact, this is a lesser known feature, I think, but we've got some action buttons on contact account and payment gateway customer to quickly add a new payment method. And an enhancement that we've put into this particular package is pre-populating address fields. So as this loads, you will see that this contact's address fields get pre-populated into this new payment method screen. So that's one additional enhancement that we have included. We've also updated our payment method logic for ACH payment methods with Stripe. This is to avoid a Stripe validation error users will receive if they attempt to add a bank account number to a customer where that bank account already exists. Stripe will only allow you to add a bank account to a customer one time. You can't add a duplicate because you'll get an error. And so we've made some changes so that if you enter a bank account against an existing customer, we will query the customer ID along with the last four of the account number and the routing number to see if that bank account already exists. And if it does, we don't try and create a new one. We just associate that transaction to the existing bank account to get around that validation error that Stripe throws. So let's talk briefly about Salesforce Winter 21, changes to guest user security, and then the changes we've made in November to accommodate some of these changes. So we've relabeled our Blackthorn webhook event admin permission set. It's now called the Blackthorn Payments site guest user permission set. So these particular changes apply to those customers who use webhooks or our payments APIs. You would assign this permission set to the Salesforce site guest user created for processing webhook events. It should also be assigned to any Salesforce site guest user who is accessing our REST or Apex API through a public site. We've updated all of our REST and Apex API accessible objects to have read and create permissions only, so the set can be assigned to the Salesforce guest user. Our API documentation has also been updated to reflect that change. And just a note, if you use our APIs, this permission set does not include access to standard account and contact objects per Salesforce design. If you need your guest user to have access, you need to manually grant them access to accounts and contacts via the guest user profile. So our last topic is going to be bug fixes that we've included in this latest version. The first is related to our Stripe billing integration and creation of subscriptions from opportunities. So in prior packages, if you included a coupon on the opportunity, that's the coupon lookup field on the opportunity, and then you used our create subscription button on the opportunity, you'd see a null pointer error, preventing you from being able to push that subscription from Salesforce to Stripe. This has been resolved in the November release. We also had a bug where the default payment method field was not always getting properly updated on contact records. This has also been addressed in this current package. Lastly, we addressed a bug where Blackthorn logs were getting created referencing a sales document field when payment schedules were generating transactions, more specifically open-ended payment schedules. There wasn't any really obvious issue with the payment schedule itself or the transaction being generated, there was a Blackthorn log getting thrown. So we've resolved that issue in this latest version as well. And that wraps up our November 2020 release webinar. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or issues related to this release, please reach out via our community. Here you can open a case that'll go straight to our support team. You can also find links to our documentation and also the release notes with links to the latest packages. I hope this pre-recorded webinar has been helpful for you. If you register for this webinar through our event listing, in a couple of days you'll receive a survey requesting some feedback. Please share feedback if you have it so that we can continue improving our processes in order to serve you best. Thanks again.